What's up, everybody? Happy NFL Sunday. I'm Jessie Coffield. You are watching The Sweat, presented by DraftKings on Bally Sports Network's 1 hour of DFS and sports betting advice coming your way all the way up until kickoff of the games at 1 p.m. And can you believe that it's already week 10? All right, the NFL season, regular season, is already halfway over. Cannot believe it. But it also means you have another shot to win a boatload of money on DraftKings. Just enter the NFL 3.5 million fantasy football millionaire contest in the DK lobby. Take a shot at $1 million top prize. The contest is just $20 to enter, so get those lineups in now. And that is not all. Not only does the winner pick up $1 million, they also earn a seat to our DraftKings Tournament of Champions, the ultimate DFS contest for the best of the best in fantasy. It's going to take place in January, where the winner will walk away with another $1 million and that sweet ring. We have just under an hour to lock, so go check out that contest now. So, our fantasy gurus are going to have all kinds of advice for you on how to build those lineups. But this show is not all about fantasy advice. We also love some sports betting. Yeah. So for more on that, I'm going to send it over to my co-host, Emerson Lotzia.
All right. Hey. Jessie Coffield. Looking good. Love the look of that shot today.
Did you see it?
She got a new haircut. Yeah. You better say something when she gets a new haircut or she'll get upset about it.
Like, wow.
Phenomenal.
Absolutely amazing.
Like Swiss cheese or wine, you know? Just keeps getting better.
She looks like
should probably start talking about football.
Got it.
Yeah. All right, anywho, let's do that. So we're talking best bets here. Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow, Reed T. Fowler. Okay, so two of you guys are going with teasers as your best bet. Of
course.
Reed, yeah, exactly.
Surprisingly, one of them is not me.
Yeah, that is surprising. You're the one who started this trend. Can you just remind people at home really quick what a teaser is?
Right, so Julian Edlow is the actual...
I invented the 6-point teaser.
of the 6-point teaser, but in terms of a teaser, right, you either want to tease a underdog up so they get more points, right, or a favorite down so it's closer to maybe through a key number like 3, for instance, and obviously you need to get two teams into a teaser. You're essentially buying points, right? The entire NFL for the last 10 weeks has been a hodgepodge of what's happening, right? We saw the Ravens lose to Miami after God knows how long. So with the teaser, what you want to do, right, is essentially buy those points. Yeah. You're buying insurance, essentially, but you need multiple teams on that teaser in order to get those points.
So, like, you have a two-team teaser here.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
The first leg of my teaser is Cleveland +8 now at New England, and that second part is New Orleans +9 at Tennessee. I'll start with that Browns side. If you take a look at the Patriots, guys, look, I think they've played over expectation from the beginning of the season, but I'm still not necessarily convinced of the teams that they've beaten so far. And what you look at Mac Jones as well, a quarterback that's really good in the pocket, especially for a rookie, but when under pressure, which we saw from last week's game against Carolina, a team that can actually apply pressure, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in terms of EPA per play. Efficiency is basically an efficiency or metric for how efficient a player is under that specific category. He was worse, guys, than Jordan Love, in that category. So I do like that. I think Cleveland can apply a ton of pressure on a guy like Mac Jones. And on the Saints side, look, if you want to take the Saints by themselves, I don't mind that at all. But essentially what you're doing, again, is buying points. No Alvin Kamara. I think he's one of those running backs that you can't necessarily replace just with someone like a Mark Ingram, even though Mark Ingram is better than most, especially coming back to his original team. But I do like the Saints in this spot, especially, again, with that defense. Talk about defense a lot. In Tennessee, you're buying, essentially, if you like the Tennessee side, at the top, guys. The Saints just lost to Atlanta. So I think you're getting some points when it's a close game like this. I like taking those sides. Again, the Pats, teams that they beat, the Jets, Texans, they almost lost. Look, the Chargers, a decent team, but they struggled against the Texans and a little bit against the Panthers, who are kind of middle of the pack. So those are my two teams.
Steve was over here just staring through your soul. Of course. Not a fan of the two-team teaser he's decided to roll with?
Look, I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. I do like the Browns side. Obviously, that's a close spread straight up right now, but I do like the New England side more. I think that the Patriots are in a good spot to beat the Browns in this one here. Will they beat them by more than a touchdown? That is yet to be seen. But I think the Patriots are starting to finally get into that groove. I really think they're letting Mac Jones throw the ball more, which has proved to be a good thing for them. That Mac Jones is starting to look really well here. He's getting a rapport with a couple of these guys on here. So I'm a little iffy on the Browns side. The Saints side, I'm just... you know what? We got some news right before the show, and it really started to make me angry. There's one thing we don't want, is me getting angry. So Now they're saying Taysom Hill is going to have a big role in the run game in this one. Here we go. Everybody's favorite player, Taysom Hill, coming in to save the day. They just traded for Mark Ingram because Alvin Kamara's out. So now we're going to have Taysom Hill, the gadget guy. He's going to be in the running back game. So is that a good thing for the Saints or a bad thing? We have yet to know because I just can't stand Taysom Hill, if you didn't realize already. With that said, I have no inkling with Trevor Siemian. This is a team that is much worse with Trevor Siemian under center. Even getting him at the better number, I'm still not on the Saints here.
Ooh.
Well, I'm just happy that Steve's so mad to start the show. But in terms of the teaser, you're not going to get much of an argument out of me against Reed like I do. You'll see with my best bet, it somewhat contradicts this, although Reed and I can both win. But he's doing it the right way because he's taking underdogs and teasing them through key numbers. You get those slight road dogs and get them up through the field goal, through the touchdown. So he's teasing the correct way. And it's tough to argue because the number that we gave out on the earlier show, road dogs of 7 or fewer points are cashing at 74% this season.
Wild.
That's insane. So now you get them up through all these key numbers. It's impossible to argue against Reed. One of the legs might not get there. I'm not going to argue about who, but the teaser is the correct way to get the most value that you can with those two teams and those key numbers.
And some key injury too. I mean, Julio Jones is on IR for Tennessee.
Yep.
Like no Derrick Henry. We saw that last week. It didn't really quote unquote affect Tennessee. They still won. They still beat the, it's still going to factor. Like you don't run against the Saints. You just don't, even if you had someone like a Derrick Henry, but that's definitely going to change a lot of things. I still do think though that when you talk about the Saints and Taysom Hill, you didn't see a lot of Taysom Hill against Atlanta because Atlanta has seen Taysom Hill for the last 2 years?
That's a shame for them.
So I do think now, right, with Tennessee, they have yet to see a guy like Taysom Hill. Like him or not, he does provide, we know Steve said him on Hill, he does provide a different fold, especially when you have no Kamara. That's what Sean Payton loves, is how do you get Kamara out and wide? How do you get Taysom Hill in these gadget spots? Trevor Siemian, if you don't trust him, you got to use everything at your disposal. They don't really have any pass catchers either, so I see what Steve is saying, but I still like the Saints because whenever they get into these spots, they usually cover.
All right, so what's your bet that you think contradicts what he said?
Pats -2, best bet for me today. Oh, really? Yeah. Look, I don't love the board. I'll admit that. The NFL's getting messy these last few weeks. But I think that the Patriots have found something. A rocky start, but that was when Mac Jones was getting his feet wet. There's still going to be mistakes. They could afford those against the Panthers last week and still come through. The Browns have just been too much of a roller coaster ride for me. So I'm going to essentially sell high on the Browns here, coming off an upset win over the Bengals. Baker Mayfield just goes up and down, up and down. I don't know if he has the weapons now with all the backs out. I know Dearness Johnson's in a good spot. He's going to have to take on the full workload. I think that Belichick and this defense have really improved, and I think they are going to force some mistakes out of Baker Mayfield, limit what he can do, and then there's only so much Dearness Johnson can hurt you. I think the Patriots on the other side are going to be able to run the ball, going to be able to at least move it through the air the ways that they need to and get this game done at home. I'm going, once again, against my own trend of the 74% road dogs that are short. I am very brave. Huge game in the AFC. Both teams 5-4 outright. Both teams 5-4 ATS. This is a big one for the playoff picture in the AFC. All these teams, who's good? Nobody's good after that Buffalo loss.
Especially
Kansas City's not good.
Buffalo.
Whoever wins this game is going to feel like they have a shot to go to the Super Bowl. I think the Patriots get this done at home.
All right, so it looks like Pats are also -2 now on the DK Sportsbook. But Steven, 5-1 ATS, the Browns are in their last 6 road games.
Yeah, that's true. But I like the Patriots in this spot here. They've covered in 2 straight games now, 2 of them.
The cozy two-shot.
Hey, it's our 2-shot again. This is my friend Julian. But I like them in this spot. I'm pretty down on the Browns in this one. They've lost some key pieces. Obviously, Beckham wasn't a key piece, but they're down one of their receivers. They're down both their top 2 running backs. And quite frankly, this is not a great spot for Dearness Johnson. In DFS, people are going to be all over Johnson this week, which is fine because the salary makes sense. But this is not a strong matchup for him against the Patriots. And if the Browns fall behind, they're going to be throwing the ball. They're much better in the secondary in that sense, too. So I like the Patriots to win this game with this spread falling at -2. You basically need them to win this game.
Now, in this series, Pats have been 4-1 their last 5 in Foxborough against Cleveland, but that was all with a guy named Tom Brady under center.
Well, and Bill Belichick Belichick, what he does so well, like these guys have laid out, is that he takes your best part. We hear it all the time ad nauseum, right? Bill Belichick takes your best part on your offense away, and then you guys have to figure it out essentially with your B, C, and D plans.
Is that the
right?
run game today then?
Right. So, and that's the thing, right? What is the best part of Cleveland's offense with Chubb out? Is it the run game? They obviously want to do that, and they're one of the most run-heavy teams in the red zone. Cleveland Browns are. So I do think that if you're Belichick, you do that, and then you force guys like Baker Mayfield to make those plays. Maybe it's David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones has started to become one of those players that we do like in DFS or you like in season-long fantasy. The Patriots right now are 15th in rush defense, so middle of the pack, right? We like their secondary. J.C. Jackson has been a ball hawk ever since he's been in the league. All this guy does is get interceptions. So that worries you about Baker Mayfield, which is why I think buying the points is so huge. But the Patriots can still win in this game. And that teaser could still work.
Right.
The one thing that I do worry about is Mac Jones. I'll keep on going back to that. Mac Jones against pressure, and talk about a defensive line that is one of the best. They're top 3, top 4 in rush, or excuse me, in rush grade, and how much pressure that they put on the quarterback. And Mac Jones, any rookie for that matter, is going to have a tough time against a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, a guy like Myles Garrett. And Joke is back. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is back too as well. I don't know if he's going to be active, but a very, very fast linebacker rookie that was hurt over the last few games. So that defense is also getting healthier for Cleveland. It's going to be a tough test.
All right, why'd you go with
the only teams the Patriots have beat by more than a touchdown this season are the Jets and the Panthers.
Okay.
There you go.
Why'd you go with a 6-point teaser as well?
Oh, I'm glad we could finally get to me. Like I didn't think we were going to get to
these guys have a lot of great
We don't need
information.
to. We don't need to. We can just stick.
We have a lot of info we're going to get, but this teaser I really like a lot too, and this is updated a little bit with the most updated lines. So you're getting Dallas down to -1.5. Basically, you just need them to win this game, and then you're getting the Raiders to up to 8.5. Like betting against the Chiefs against the spread has been extremely profitable since dating back to last season. They are the second worst team against the spread, only to the New York Jets since last season. Kansas City 10-18 against the spread, covering only 35% of the time. The Jets 8-16, 33% of the time that they're covering in that scenario as well. You are getting Dallas at a very valuable line because of the loss last week and the Falcons beating all these dopey teams that everybody should be beating anyways. This easily could have been double digits. We talked about this on the Unreasonable Odd podcast. My friend Julian, where's the 2-shot? Why can't we have it now? I'm talking about
Here,
Julian.
that's my shoulder.
But this podcast that we do, we talk about how
Yeah.
under control.
That's like the Collinsworth slide here.
Right,
We got to
yeah,
do more of
absolutely.
that.
But
Let's go.
If Dallas had not lost that game last week, if the Falcons had lost that game last week, this easily would be 10 or more. So you're getting a really good line on this one. And then the Raiders going against a team that simply can't cover against the Chiefs.
Yeah, Cowboys,
Here I am.
Yeah, Cowboys failed to cover the spread for the first time last week against the Broncos. Any reason to not roll with this teaser that Steve has?
I don't mind it. Again, as long as you're teasing correctly, you're not going to get an argument out of me. So like, even if I don't like a side necessarily, Steve's doing it the right way, getting through all the key numbers down to 2 with Dallas, getting through all the key numbers up to the 8.5 with Vegas. So I like
Not
this is
going
my
through zero.
I preach value. I preach getting through key numbers, not being Brendan Glasheen on Twitter and giving out teasing through 0, which is a cardinal sin. Don't tease through 0. So if you do it correctly, I'm a value better. I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, and when you don't, I mean, Julian's point, the reason why you don't do that is because you're losing
Wow.
value, right?
This whole 2-shot thing is becoming really popular.
Why are we doing this?
You don't do that, right? Because you're losing the value. When you get the points, you don't tease through 0. That's exactly right. What I do like about Steve's Raiders side of that is we talk about pressure. I talked about that with Cleveland. The Raiders blitz the last amount, right? They're I think 13% are last, Emerson, in terms of the Raiders, but they give the 6th highest pressure rate. So they're getting to the quarterback with just 4 guys. And Patrick Mahomes, his passer rating when in a clean pocket is 105. When it's under pressure, it's 60.5. That is a massive, and we're seeing that right now with Patrick Mahomes. Do you do like that? And Dallas, like Steve mentioned, you're getting them on sort of a discount, against that Atlanta team that I don't really know what Atlanta is doing. I think they're playing at their absolute highest, their apex right now, their zenith. But yeah, I like that a lot. The other thing I will say about New England, they play Thursday night as well.
Short
so you
week.
kind of have to think about that.
Yep.
Just giving you guys info.
Short week.
They play Atlanta on next
4-point
Thursday, right?
favorites in Atlanta.
In Atlanta,
for the
so they
Patriots
go,
on
yeah, they
Thursday
go to
night.
Atlanta.
All right. Juicy stuff, gentlemen. Thank you. And everyone at home, please, buckle up because we have plenty more coming your way, including Steve and Julian's favorite underdog plays of the week.
Okay.
Wow.
Rough.
All right.
Okay.
But first, let's sprinkle a little DFS knowledge on you right now with our guy Pat Mayo as he looks at some of the top stacks for your lineups this week.
Jessie,
Exciting.
What are the game stacks that you need to be going to? The popular one this week is Bills offensive stack against the Jets. Can't really talk you out of it, but that stack it's hard to correlate that stack because it's different people every single week. Like, when was the last time Stefon Diggs actually broke a slate for you paired up with Josh Allen? It was last year because Cole Beasley is doing enough. Dawson Knox is back this week. Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, even Devin Singletary is a runner in that game. There are so many different options that you just might not have in your lineup. We need to be a bit more concentrated when we're thinking about stacks this week. So the Bills one, if you get it right, has the potential to be bonanza in that game of DraftKings points. It's just going to be really hard to pin down who exactly you want. An easier way to go about this might be just a very skinny stack and go with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and bring it back with either DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett with Russell Wilson returning for the Seahawks. So you just have the 3-person stack in that game. It's expensive, but at the same time, you have these pay-down running backs where you can most definitely afford those players as well. If there was ever a week to use a one-off Steelers receiver, it is most definitely Deontay Johnson. Without Chase Claypool, it's going to be James Washington on the other side of the ball. He's going to be very popular, but still probably not as popular as he should be in a spot where you can almost pencil him in for 12 targets, maybe even more in this offense against the Lions, who legitimately could triple cover him and nothing would happen. Nothing would deter him from picking up his 7 to 8 catches. In terms of like steady value this week, Deontay Johnson's probably one of the best available options. You go Johnson and Johnson, that's what you're doing with your lineup this week in most spots. That's going to be a very common build. And honestly, I can't really talk many people out of it. Maybe if you didn't want to use Deontay Johnson, you wanted to use Najee Harris instead. I mean, I could get behind that. I think that makes a lot of sense, but I think that most people will be using one or the other of those Steelers in their lineup. Or you can fade both of them and use Pat Freiermuth at $3,800 as a one-off tight end. Or, as crazy as it sounds, stack up Ben Roethlisberger with Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth. I know that's not fun to do, and it has the potential for a lot of downside. Still, no one's going to be doing that. You can bring it back with DeAndre Swift. The Steelers' run defense is good, but they're not great against pass-catching running backs. That could actually make a lot of sense, too. It's very risky, but it could work. If you're just going to look at pure quarterbacks and seeing what the board presents, Dallas against Atlanta, I think, is really good. You have to figure out who A.J. Tyrell is going to be on in this game. It's probably going to be CeeDee Lamb. So you go Dak, you go Cooper, you go Dalton Schultz. You have a high upside stack that people are off of because no one is taking Cowboys this week after what happened a week ago. You could go with the game that probably everyone wants to target, and it doesn't seem like it's going to necessarily go that way. The Chargers side of the Vikings game is going to be the popular side, but if you just straight up wanted to go Cousins, Jefferson, Thielen, maybe even add in Cook if you wanted to take away one of those players and run it back with Eckler, Mike Williams, or Oster or Keenan Allen, or just play the opposite sides of the game and bring it back with Dalvin Cook. Either way, that game has the best potential to be a shootout. Now, the final one, the one that's been printing money all season long, if you can get it right, and we might be able to do it this week, Tom Brady, $7,600, just let's write him in. We don't know if Chris Godwin is playing right now or not, because if he does not play, and we don't know if Antonio Brown is playing, Gronk is probably not playing. So Mike Evans, we can just pencil him in, easy stuff. Brady, Mike Evans. Maybe that's all you want to do in this game. Because do you really want to go down the route of playing O.J. Howard, or playing Cameron Brate, or Darren Fells, who they just signed, who's going to be active for this game, or wait and see if Godwin's not playing, and then play Tyler Johnson at $3,300. Then you get what would be an expensive stack, but you get it for way cheaper, and then you still have the ability to plug in some of these running backs to save money, to get up to the Devontae Adams, to get up to Deontay Johnson, and really round out your team. And God forbid you get up to Christian McCaffrey, all of a sudden, you're looking pretty good in that scenario. Those were my Week 10 DraftKings plays. If you need more information, head on over to DKNation.com right now.
All right, thank you, Pat, and welcome back to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings on Bally Sports Networks. And I've got some facts to lay down for you. A fact that Julian found on Twitter.com earlier and put on here. It's the year of the underdog here. So dogs are winning at a rate of almost 58% so far this season. a fact found from the twitter.com. So let's send it over to Steve Buchanan and Julian Edlow, who are about to drop their favorite underdog picks on a little segment we like to call the Dog Pound.
At Julian Edlow is where you can find me for all these amazing facts and
plug.
stats and info on Twitter. Thank you very much, Jesse. Thank you for the plug. I'm an amazing follow, as is Steve at SBuchanan24. As is the Unreasonable Odds podcast at Unreasonable
A lot of
Odd.
plugs.
That's a lot of plugs. Now we got to give some dogs.
Okay.
So I will start us off. This one has moved from 3 to 3.5. I might finally have to get on board here with the Minnesota Vikings in the late window at the LA Chargers. Not that home field advantage matters to begin with in the NFL anymore, but if any team doesn't have a home field advantage, it's the LA Chargers. So you can scratch that off. You've got the Vikings, who have been all over the place. They should have won 1 million games. They should have lost 1 million games. Here they are. What are the Vikings? They're a team that I think is going to beat the Chargers today because the Chargers are getting relatively inconsistent as well. They've kind of gone downhill after that hot start, losing some games as favorites. They got the win over the Eagles in a game that was bet down to a pick'em last week. But the key to this game, the Minnesota Vikings rushing attack. The Chargers cannot defend the run. Minnesota can run. If they just keep running the ball in this game, I think it's going to be enough. So the Minnesota's rushing attack alone is why I like them in this game.
So here's the funny thing about the run attack is that you can also run against the Vikings. And right now, I think the Chargers, I'm not a coach or anything, but I think the Chargers, the way they're running their offense right now, that's the right way. Getting Keenan Allen back in that wide receiver 1 role. He kind of took a step back with Mike Williams over the past couple of weeks, but Keenan Allen has emerged once again as that wide receiver 1. You talked about the run game with Dalvin Cook. Fine, totally fine. Austin Eckler, also in a really good spot against the Vikings. With that said, with this line moving to 3.5 now, I think you do have to go with the Vikings in this one. This was as close as 2.5, I believe, as of yesterday. This game was. So obviously, there's been a lot of movement here for the Vikings in that sense. For the Chargers in that sense, but giving some value on the Vikings in that sense. I think that's the right call there. Teaser piece.
Getting
the Vikings up to 9.5. That is where I think the best one is there. And you could go ahead.
And really quick, I'm just going to say that this fits the bill for the number, the 74% that's been cashing that we've been giving out all show. Road favorite, less than 7 points.
Yep. Okay.
I'm sorry, road dog, less than 7 points.
So I'm gonna give my dog. All right, wait. I gotta put this down. I gotta get real animated here. There was a point in time during this NFL season where I said, I am never gonna go back to the Lions again. When they did me dirty before, I'm not gonna do it. Then I look at the board. It's that time again. Okay, I'm going back on my own pretense, my own anger. I'm pushing that to the side. I'm shoving it in a corner. And I'm saying, I'm going back to the Lions, okay? Not only are they the underdog, you can take them on the spread. It's gone down to 6.5. Mason Rudolph, the guy who got cracked in the head with a helmet by Myles Garrett a couple years ago. That guy's starting, okay? I think the Lions win outright. I think this is where they get their first win. They're down. We're talking about the Steelers now. They're down Juju Smith-Schuster, which has been for weeks now. They're down Chase Claypool. Now they're down Ben Roethlisberger. Quite frankly, Mason Rudolph may be an upgrade, okay? Because at least Mason Rudolph can, shimmy or something. Ben Roethlisberger's
that was a nice shimmy.
Here comes the pressure. Oh, and he's just down. He does nothing, okay? So at least Mason Rudolph can do something. But I think this is the week. Mark the tape because I might be angry about this next week. I think this is the week the Lions will win outright, but quite frankly, I have no problem taking them 6.5 on the spread.
I mean, my only counter argument would be I wish we got the value yesterday, but we don't do the show yesterday, and we're reacting to the injury news.
Thanks a lot, guys.
There's not I wouldn't say there's any value on the Steelers side. Now, if you're somebody that values Ben Roethlisberger and Mason Rudolph the same, it means you have to bet the Steelers here because they've come down through a key number of 7. And if you think the quarterback doesn't matter, you got to stick to your guns and bet the side that you believe in. But for me, it's Lions with the points. The game total here, we're creeping down to 40.
Right.
How many points? That's when you want to take a dog when it's this low scoring. So I don't know if I'm going to get in on this game. I grabbed the 7.5 on Saturday night. I don't want any part of it necessarily. I'm going to hedge out with some Steelers, hope to middle that on a key number, but I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, so we go from something that sounds really gross to somebody who looks absolutely dynamite. We're going to go back to Jessie Coffield.
Steve is filled with compliments today.
It's me. They're talking about me. Amazing. All right. Thank you, Steve and Julian. I do look amazing. Those are some underdogs to look out for today. But right now, let's check in with a guy who's doing his best to look amazing. Emerson, as he's standing by with one of our favorites on the show, Ross Tucker.
Yikes.
All right, it's time now to get Tucker's take on the Week 10 slate. Former NFL lineman, current podcaster, the riveting, Ross Tucker, speaking of riveting here, dude, Jacksonville's upset of the Bills last week. Buffalo now facing the Jets on the road. How big of a bounce-back performance do you expect from the Bills?
Well, first of all, as a former Buffalo Bill, that was brutal.
Yeah.
It's a bad loss, man. I mean, that's going to come back to haunt them later on in the year. I absolutely expect them to bounce back against the Jets and to beat the Jets, but I don't know if they cover. And there's a couple of reasons why. Something's wrong with the Bills' offense. They struggled against the Miami Dolphins a couple weeks ago, made a couple plays in the second half, and then they couldn't do anything against the Jaguars last week. Meanwhile, the Jets will start Mike White. Hopefully he stays healthy and can play the whole game. And if he does, I think the Jets cover. Give me the Jets and the points.
All right, yeah, they're just 2-6 ATS this season. How about another surprising result in Week 9 here, Ross? The Titans crushing the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Now, you said Tennessee would rally around the loss of Derrick Henry and cover. They did that and then some. Now they're hovering around a field goal favorite at home against New Orleans. So who covers here?
Yeah, I'm going with the Saints because there's a few reasons. Number one, I think now the Saints know what the plan is for the Titans without Derrick Henry. And by the way, the Titans had less than 200 yards of offense in that game against the Rams. The defense won that game for the Titans. I don't think Danico Autry and Jeffrey Simmons are going to be able to mess with the Saints offensive line like they did against the Rams. And I don't think Trevor Siemian is going to spot the Titans 2 touchdowns like Matthew Stafford did. In fact, I thought Trevor Siemian played pretty decently last week, especially in the fourth quarter against the Falcons. I love the Saints and the points in this game.
Yeah, they've been kind of a hard team to figure out, but they are 4-1 ATS in their last 5 games following a straight-out loss here, dude. Okay, so we got a little clash here of returning quarterbacks with Seattle and Green Bay. Russell Wilson from the finger surgery. We got Aaron Rodgers from his COVID controversy. Who are you giving the edge to here?
Well, in terms of a betting perspective, man, this is a stay away. There's just too many unknowns. I don't really know. I haven't seen Russell Wilson throw a football since he had this finger injury, and I don't really know what to expect from Rodgers. I guess I would say I would lean more towards the Packers and Rodgers because he hasn't been off that long, and it's not a physical injury that he's trying to come back from like it is for Russell Wilson. And, oh, by the way, the Packers are just better than the Seahawks. That helps, too.
Yeah, for sure. Juicy one, too, Sunday night, man. Chiefs, Raiders in Vegas, a pivotal AFC West kerfuffle, a pair of 5-win teams. Derek Carr hitting a funk in New York, right? The same time that Patrick Mahomes regained his turnover-free confidence in Green Bay. Does Patty Mayonnaise come out on top here in the Sin City?
No, he doesn't. I like the Raiders and the points quite a bit. Listen, the Chiefs are still broken. I know Patrick Mahomes made that last throw to Tyreek Hill to close out the game. That was great. That was classic Mahomes. They still only scored 13 points. And the Packers couldn't move the ball at all. The Chiefs' offense is broken. Now, of course, maybe this will be the game when they break out and score 40 points. But until they show they have it fixed, I'm not going to believe that they do. I think the Raiders had a really rough week a week ago with Henry Ruggs, everything that happened there. I think the Raiders bounce back at home. I think the Raiders win this game outright. I'll take the points, though.
Yeah, Vegas 5-1 ATS in the last 6 games as an underdog. And speaking of that here, Ross, backing the underdogs, rewarding bettors last week with 10 Week 9 favorites failing to cover. Who's a dog that you like today?
Well, so it kind of burned me when I picked them against the Eagles a couple weeks ago, but I am going with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions.
What? Dude, you've done this before. Are you sure?
I know. That doesn't mean, look, I got to go by what I think. And what I think is the Detroit Lions are going to keep this game close. I really do. I think that the Steelers have a tendency. Look at Mike Tomlin, right? These are always the games that Mike Tomlin loses somehow. Once a year, they lose to a team that they have no business losing to. And I don't think the Lions are going to win the game, but I do think it'll be very competitive. very close. Lions off a bye. Everybody telling them how bad they are. Steelers had to play prime time Monday night. Kind of a 1 o'clock, we're playing the Lions. I think the Lions keep it close. Give me Detroit and the points.
Yeah, they're winless, but they have not always been a bad bet this season. Good point by you. Who's a dude going off in the 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock windows? We're over in the land of fantasy now.
Yeah, so I don't know if I would say go off, okay?
All right.
But I do think that you should strongly consider putting Jordan Howard from the Eagles in your lineup at running back. 17 carries last week, 71 yards. There's a decent chance he scores a couple of touchdowns. The Eagles, 2 games in a row, are pounding the rock. He's been the most productive and effective runner they have. He's playing like he's found the fountain of youth. Maybe surprise some people. Put Jordan Howard in your lineup. I also think Jalen Hurts is never a bad idea just because of the running element that he brings to the table. But a lot of people will have Jalen Hurts in their lineup.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Put Jordan Howard in your lineup.
Yeah, Jordan Howard was on the practice squad for most of the season. Now he's got 3 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks. Let's wrap it up with Monday Night Football, featuring a divisional game between the Rams and the Niners. Both those teams coming off disappointing losses. What's your gut telling you here?
I think Rams. You know, I know that they got worked by the Titans, but I don't think the Niners have the interior defensive linemen that the Titans do that to the Rams again. And I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Matthew Stafford essentially spotted the Titans 2 touchdowns. He's not going to do that against the 49ers. And I don't know what's going on in the 49ers. It's like, think about the teams that played in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, the Chiefs and the Niners. It's like they've got some type of year and a half later hangover. So I don't know what's going on, but it's not good in San Francisco. People are going to be calling for Trey Lance.
Yep.
People are questioning Kyle Shanahan. I like the Rams.
Yeah, good call. 49ers, 0-4 ATS at home in their last 4 here. Ross Tucker, we love you. We always enjoy talking to you here, dude. We'll see you next week, okay?
Sounds great. See you, Emerson.
All right, thanks, Emerson and Ross. We're going to take a quick break and come back with a segment that will test everyone's DFS knowledge and penmanship as the guys put it on the board. But before the break, here's a look at a new web series that premiered this week on the DraftKings YouTube channel. Chasing the GOAT follows 3 well-known DFS players as they look for fame and fortune at the DraftKings Fantasy Football World Championship.
Some people might call me the Michael Jordan of fantasy, and I'm not going to argue with them.
When all is said and done, the whistles go, woo!
Awesemo, you've been number 1 for multiple years now, but I'm coming for you, buddy. Let's go!
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and today, new customers can bet $1 on any NFL game and get $100 if any points are scored. Plus, new fantasy players can play free for your share of millions this season when you make your first deposit. Use promo code SWEAT when you sign up. Howdy ho, everybody. Welcome back to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings on Bally Sports Networks. Now, earlier in this show, Jesse told you about this week's $3.5 million fantasy football millionaire contest. You have just under 30 minutes right now to go enter that and potentially join R. Bradley, 23, as the new millionaire. Take a look at the Week 9 $1 million winning lineup. Two very low-owned plays, putting up big points. LA's Justin Herbert, north of 34 fantasy points at just 3.5% ownership. Then James Conner terminating the field with 40 points at just 2% ownership. Congrats to this individual. Good luck to all of you entering your Millie lineups right now. It is time to break out those dry erase markers. Our analysts are ready now to help you with those Millie Maker lineups as we get their fantasy point predictions in a segment we like to call Put It on the Board. We have Reed Fowler, Jeff Ulrich, Pierce Dietrich on hand. So gentlemen, get those whiteboards ready, please. First up, all right, Russell Wilson. It's a pretty simple concept here. You just put down the points that you are projecting this individual to have. So Russell Wilson, he's back from that finger injury. He's taking on Green Bay. Let's see it. How many points are you guys predicting for Russell Wilson, who's coming off the IR for the first time in his career? 3, 2. All right, so 22 from Jeff. What else do we got? 20 from Pierce and 22.4 from Reed. Jeff, your expectations are relatively high. Why is that?
I mean, it's Russell Wilson. I mean, he's one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. So, I mean, you know, this kind of performance is always on the table. I'm actually not that bullish on Russ in this spot. I think 20 to 22 points is kind of his median. But I think his ceiling probably tops out around 25 points against Green Bay. They play at a slow pace. They're really good at limiting yards per attempt. So I'm still expecting a good day because it's Russ. But this isn't really a quarterback I necessarily want to target this week because I don't think his ceiling is that high against Green Bay.
Pierce, before missing 3 games, too, with a torn tendon in that finger, he was displaying his usual stellar numbers, too.
We are all cowards. I expected to be a coward and go with the median projection, but I didn't expect these guys to do it as well. It's Russell Wilson. We know that he can, an accurate projection would be 40 or 10 points. We've already seen that this year. He's gone for 300 in one game, 150 passing in another game, a 4-touchdown passing game, a 1 rushing touchdown game. 20 is probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be 40 or 10, but I'll be a coward and go 20.
Wow, Reed, you're a coward. Pierce's words, not mine. Now, I believe your projection was the highest out of all of them. Is that because Wilson said he spent 19 or 20 hours a day rehabbing his finger injury?
Yeah, and that beautiful montage of the recovery, which was fantastic from Russ Wilson. But yeah, look, I mean, Pierce is right? Like, we're taking a little bit of the easy way out with Russ. Steve's favorite type of game is a snow game, is a weather game. So maybe that's why there's snow in Lambeau Field right now. But having said that, look, both of these quarterbacks are coming back after an extended, either Russ with an extended amount of time off or Aaron Rodgers, right, missing last week, being on the COVID list. And you take a look at Russ, the one thing that tempers expectation, Pierce, is what this team did to Kyler Murray, which we always say Kyler Murray is the younger version of Russ Wilson, right? Kyler Murray only had 11 points. Granted, he was maybe a little bit banged up. Russ is coming back 2 weeks earlier than what we expected in terms of his hand. He is a freak of nature when it comes to healing. He always heals extremely fast. Green Bay gives up about 2 pass touchdowns, right around there. So I have him right on that median. I think they're going to run it a little more in this game. But yeah, Russ Wilson, 22, 25 is probably where he's going to end up.
All right, well, speaking of Kyler Murray, I love that, Reed. Great segue here. We're going to go to the running backs department. I'm going to throw out the name James Conner here. He's taking on Carolina. I believe he scored north of 40 points last week, possibly the highest fantasy points scorer in DraftKings in Week 9. Now that Chase Edmonds is out, this guy is the man in Arizona, so let's see it. Let's see what you guys are predicting and projecting for James Conner today. Who's the first person we're going to punch up? Reed T. Fowler, just under 20 points. What is that? Hail to Pitt? Is that? Oh, that's ridiculous.
HTP,
terminated. Baby. Under 8 points from Ulrich, and then Pierce, 26. Pierce, you're expecting this dude just to eat again, huh?
Yeah, I do. I expect that he's going to eat. They've got a banged-up offense. And who else is going to take the volume away? He's got a very solid receiving floor that we saw last week. He should get around, 90 to 100 yards. And he's going to find the end zone. Carolina has improved. They're not as good as we thought they were. They're not as bad as we thought they were. They're still not that great. And in this spot, Arizona should give the ball to Connor. I mean, just the game script plays well to his favor.
Okay, Ulrich, listen, you're not expecting much from him. I mean, he had 8 touchdowns before his 3-touchdown game last week.
Yeah, look, I don't think that James Conner's touchdown rate is sustainable. 11 touchdowns for James Conner. The guy's playing in a 40% snap rate so far. I think this is going to come down a bit. I'm predicting this as a bust spot. Carolina's given up some decent games to running backs, but they've all been elite running backs. Like, James Conner's averaging like 4.2 yards per carry. He's averaging under 4 yards per carry. I don't know where this 90 yards Pierce thinks is coming from. Was he going to get 50 carries in this game? Eno Benjamin, I'm going to say right now, Eno Benjamin going to outscore him. He's the better running back. I don't know. James Conner's just been living with the, in the clouds. I mean, I'll get all the touchdowns. It's got to come to a stop at some point. I think Carolina's rush defense puts a cap on him. I think Eno Benjamin gets more run than people realize here.
All right, Fowler, we should also keep in mind, too, like Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are going to be tested pregame, but according to Adam Schefter, team doesn't really sound a whole lot optimistic. And he had that 3-touchdown game last week without those 2 in the lineup.
Yeah, this is Jeff Ulrich. He just there's still some residual effect of Chase Edmonds not working out and then getting hurt.
Very upset.
Very upset. So there's a little bit of bias, but to his credit, yes, James Conner is not that type of player that we usually gravitate towards in PPR, right? It's just he doesn't catch a lot of balls. But 5 catches last week, Jeff. He had 5 before coming into that game. Now he has 5 to match what he did in the first handful of weeks. And look, I see where Jeff's kind of going with this too, is that James Conner, you probably don't want to give him the 20 carries, right? Because now Chase Edmonds on IR, you want to make sure at least this guy who has a history of injuries is able to stay safe. Having said that, the Cards have a 27.5 implied team total. Where's it going to come from? Like Christian Kirk, yeah, he might get you 4 or 40. That's kind of the guy that I feel like has that like floor to ceiling game in GPPs right now is Christian Kirk, but where else is it going to come from? Zach Ertz? No, I think James Conner is going to get 15 carries. I think he's going to bolster up his yards per carry because he's going to be in a lot more type of plays. And yes, the touchdowns. This was Kenyon Drake last year. Yeah. This guy's getting all of the touchdowns. And Colt McCoy, sorry guys, he's not going to rush it in. He might give you like a naked bootleg, but he's not going to rush it in. This is James Conner.
Yeah, there's a chance he could be the entire offense. I mean, Jeff, this may not work out well for you at all. He's 63. He was $6,300, by the way. Stephon Diggs, he's $1,200 more, so he's $7,500 here today, guys. Buffalo Bills, wide receiver. They're on the road at the Jets. Let's just say the combination of Diggs and Allen really hasn't come in like over the first half of the year. So what do you guys expect today? He's gone over 100 yards receiving just once. But again, we're talking the Jets here. But the Jets are similar to the Jaguars. And the Bills lost to the Jaguars last week. Couldn't even score a touchdown. What do you guys expect out of Diggs today? Let's see the whiteboards here. Wow, 20.5. Meh. 24. And then 17. Reed, why? Well, how much did you come up with again?
20.5.
20
yeah,
and a half? How'd you come up with that?
Just with the meh kind of sign. I got him for $775 and a touch. Look, this has kind of been his MO, right, the whole season. It's kind of had this like no real ceiling games that we've come to love about Stephon Diggs. And not really a floor, right? He's giving you constant production. Like Dawson Knox is supposed to be back here. I think Zach Moss cleared concussion protocol. If those guys were out, then really this becomes more of a Stephon Diggs type of game. Cole Beasley should be playing in this game as well. And the Jets have a really bad secondary. Marcus May also, their star safety, is out with an Achilles injury for the rest of the year. The Jets defense really struggles on all facets, right? So that's why I do think $775 and a touch. I don't think they need Stephon Diggs to have that huge game, but I still think he has a productive one.
Jeff, this is one of the cheapest salaries that he brings to the table this year. He has only 2 games north of 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, and the problem is, like, he's averaging about the same yards per reception that he was last year. He's just, like, you mentioned all those names. Reed mentioned all those names. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley getting snaps. They're just spreading the ball around. Dawson Knox is a thing in the red zone. It really just has taken away from Steph Diggs' upside, and I'm not going to start projecting him for, like, 25, 30-point games anymore. I know it's the Jets. But, I mean, if he doesn't find the end zone here, I mean, I may even be on the high side. I mean, the Steph Diggs is... It's hard to project him for more than like 70 yards right now. So I think you got to temper expectations a bit. It's still a good spot. I mean, it is the Jets. But at the same time, I think there's a bigger bust factor with Steph Diggs this year than last.
And even though not scoring last week, he had 8 targets, 6 catches, 85 yards. He had 14.5 fantasy points. Pierce, what was your projection again?
24 points.
Okay, wow. That would be his highest output of the season in fantasy points.
Well, it's not that crazy. I mean, look, the targets have been there all season long. It just hasn't happened. And if there's a matchup where it should happen, it should be this week. We know the Bills pass all game long. The running backs are not 100% healthy, so that's going to add even more to the passing situation. And if you just compare my projection to what Jeff is projecting, it's just a touchdown. So he says he's not going to get a touchdown against the Jets. I think he will get a touchdown against the Jets. I would rather bet on Steph Diggs and the upside than bet against him.
All right, cool. That'd be his 3rd touchdown in the last 4 games. Gentlemen, we are out of time for this segment. We appreciate you. We love you. Thanks for the very informative segment. Reed's very happy that it's over. Now you can use those whiteboards, though, to write down a reminder to check out the Die Hard Dialogue podcast featuring Gary Vee. Here's the man himself telling you all about it.
Hey guys, it's Gary Vee. Make sure you tune in to DraftKings YouTube channel for Die Hard Dialogue, where each week we do a listener league, DFS, and give away some of my highly valuable football cards, and we boost one prop bet. Die Hard Dialogue, DraftKings YouTube channel.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and today, new customers can bet $1 on any NFL game and get $100 if any points are scored. Plus, new fantasy players can play free for your share of millions this season when you make your first deposit. Use promo code SWEAT when you sign up.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for Primetime Picks. I'm here to help Jeff Ulrich and Piers Dietrich. Guys, need your favorite DFS and sportsbook plays for Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. So, favorite DFS play for Chiefs at Raiders. Piers, you're going with a guy who's been pretty consistent but hasn't, really exploded.
No, he hasn't, but Josh Jacobs looked pretty good coming off the bye last week. He looks healthy. The Las Vegas offensive line looks pretty good. And Kansas City has a bad defense. Their rush defense is much worse than their pass defense. Dare I say their pass defense is kind of good. If I'm Las Vegas in this situation, you run the ball and you let Mahomes beat himself.
Jeff, you're going with a more traditional choice, the number 1 receiving option for the Raiders.
Yeah, going to stick with the Raiders. I mean, I don't know how much longer Patrick Mahomes can keep beating himself, but it is, he's definitely been doing that this year with the interceptions. I just feel like Darren Waller is like where you want to go with the Raiders. I mean, this is a team that isn't that good at running the ball. They're bottom 5 in terms of yards per carry. Waller, you saw last week, with the increased target share available, 11 targets. I mean, this is, again, a Chiefs defense that's allowed 6 touchdowns already to opposing tight ends. Darren Waller due for some positive regression in the touchdown department as well. I think he's just due for another 10-plus target game here, and I think he's going to continue that the rest of the season.
All right, let's get your favorite bet for Chiefs Raiders. Pierce, you're going with a parlay here.
Yeah, let's parlay. Jacobs over 56.5 yards, along with the Raiders +3. That just seems like way too low of a total against the 4th worst run defense in football, especially when you factor in that the Raiders last week lost the game because of poor quarterback play. They should come into this, be conservative, run the ball. The line's looking good. And then +3 for the Chiefs. Have you seen this team play? What are we doing? They're 2-7 against the spread. The Raiders should be favored in this game.
All right, and Jeff, you're sticking with your dude Darren Waller here.
I'm sticking with my guy, Darren Waller. I mean, I think this is a fantastic spot for him. As I mentioned, I mean, Derek Carr loves Darren Waller. And, I mean, for him to score a touchdown at +165 against the Chiefs, Pierce is right. The Chiefs aren't a good team, especially on defense. And, again, they've allowed a touchdown. They've allowed 6 touchdowns to the tight ends, opposing tight ends, over their last 6 games. Darren Waller going to get that increased snap share. This is the guy who had 9 touchdowns last year. He's only got 2 on the year. I also like Darren Waller, first team touchdown. You go on the DraftKings Sportsbook, you look under touchdown, you can go first team touchdown +500. I think Darren Waller is going to get a bunch of targets this game. I think he finds the end zone. So just target all the Darren Waller touchdown props.
All right, Pierce, let's look ahead to your favorite DFS play for Rams at 49ers. You're going with the dude for your favorite play who's likely going to see an increased workload.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp is a no-brainer here. Don't overthink it. The Rams, they lost last week because their offensive line had a bad week, and it was against a pretty good defensive pass rush. This week, they're facing a team that does not have a pass rush whatsoever. So Stafford should be able to get the ball to Cooper Kupp. Kupp's props are through the roof. 7.5 receptions, 96 yards receiving. Every projection site has him as his number 1 play, so just play Kupp.
All right, you are not taking that advice, Jeff.
No, I would never listen to Pierce's advice. Come on. I mean,
right.
Maybe Reed or Steve, but not Pierce. No, I like going to George Kittle. I mean, I think if you're not going to pay up for Cooper Kupp, I think George Kittle, upside-wise, he definitely has a very similar ceiling. He's averaged 97 yards and almost a touchdown per game against the Rams over his last 3 starts. And look, when George Kittle's been healthy this year, he's averaged 9.5 targets over his last 3 games. We saw him with the big game last week. It's the guy who just shows up. It's a good spot to attack the Rams, too. They're really good on the outside with their corners, but not so good at the middle. So I think George Kittle has a big game. Love him for showdown purposes. He's way cheaper than Cooper Kupp.
All right, Pierce, your favorite bet for this one, pretty straightforward.
Rams -4. This is a major overreaction to a game they lost last week against the team that has the best record in the AFC and beat them basically in the trenches. They won't lose this game in the trenches. We've talked about how the Rams are a Super Bowl contender. San Francisco is not. I have no problem taking the Rams and laying the 4.
All right, Jeff, what about your favorite bet for this one?
Yeah, I definitely don't mind taking the Rams on the spread. I'll agree with Pierce there, but I'm just going to stick with my tight end guy here. I mean, this is all the primetime tight ends. George Kittle over 57.5 receiving yards. I just went over his stats against the Rams. He just kills the Rams every year. And then player parlays. You can go into player parlays on the DraftKings Sportsbook. George Kittle's +1,400. +1,400 to go over 125 receiving yards and score a touchdown. Kittle has gone over 125 receiving yards 3 times in his last 30 games. We're getting pretty good odds here for this to happen. Again, I really like all the overs on George Kittle.
All right, good stuff, guys. Thank you for your primetime picks. Now we're closing in on lock here, so it's time for Working Up a Sweat with my co-host, Emerson Lotzia, the mogul of moisture.
All right. I like it a lot. I'm going to add that to my LinkedIn profile.
Good thinking.
Thank you, Reed, Steven, Julian. Let's work up a sweat together. So last-minute DFS takes here. Are you rethinking anything before lock? If so, what is it, Reed?
This Carolina-Arizona game. We saw Arizona favored by 10.5. It's now 8.5, about 5 minutes before close. We know that DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray are out. We kind of knew that. What you see with these guys, and this kind of goes to the DFS side as well, is like, are we extremely confident with James Conner? I think we are. Like, are we extremely confident with a guy like Christian Kirk? Nah. Right? Like, I'm trying to stay away from this game a little bit because it seems like it's a little trappy. what we know too, guys, about like low total games that are about a touchdown favorite for one side, that's kind of where you find value on the other side. But again, I'm not really playing Carolina or betting Carolina right now, but that one gives me a little bit of pause because the Cardinals, there's a lot of positivity around them because of what they did last week against San Francisco without a lot of those guys, but that gives me a little bit of pause.
Unless you're Jeff Ulrich, who thinks that it's going to be under 8 points scored by James Conner today. Wow. Get to the choppa, am I right? What are you rethinking? Anything?
I mean, I don't know. Do I play Mark Ingram or not? Like, we got to get Taysom Hill involved. Everybody's all excited about getting Taysom Hill involved. We started off the show like this. We're going to end the show like this. All right? So here's the thing about this week, though. If you're a little iffy about Mark Ingram now, there is a lot of value at running back this week because of injuries. Ernest Johnson is someone you can slot in there. Stevenson with the Patriots, or even J.J. Taylor gets some the passing work in that offense as well. So, if you are a little confused about Mark Ingram, like myself, at least there's some other options that you can go to as well for this week.
What do you think?
I mean, my thoughts are that we've had a lot of value open up on the board at running back. Ernest Johnson, Mark Ingram, guys that are, plug and play, easy cash plays. So it kind of ties into the make it rain pick, but I'm liking going with running backs that are in strong spots that aren't necessarily going to be as chalky because of all the almost free squares we've been given at the running back position.
So that kind of leads us into our make it rain picks. Now you're going with a running back. This is going to be a guy, these guys are going to give us a guy who they think is just going to make it rain cash for you today in your DFS lineups. What do you got?
So that ties into Dalvin Cook, who I think is in a really good spot.
Yeah, baby.
But all these other running backs, now Najee Harris included in that list, who I like a lot. He should have a heavy workload against Detroit with Roethlisberger out. But you go to a guy like Dalvin Cook, who had a good game, 17 carries for 110 yards. He did rip off a 66-yarder against the Ravens. He's been quiet by his own standards, but this matchup, Chargers, worst run D in the NFL, short road dog. I like the spot for Minnesota. They're kind of due to make up some wins that they feel like they've missed out on earlier in the season. You win this game by giving the ball to Dalvin Cook and giving it to him a lot, and I think that's what's going to happen.
I'm actually shocked he hasn't had more than one touchdown in a game this year.
He has 2 total.
Yeah. Touchdown, positive regression is coming.
Yep. All right,
yards and scores are on the way.
Looking at you guys, what do you have? Under 2 minutes in the show. Let's start with Steve because you have a quarterback who may be throwing the ball to his make it rain pick.
Yeah, just real quick. Tom Brady going against the Washington football team. The Buccaneers have the second highest total on the slate, 30.5 points. The Bucs throw the ball. That's all they do. 67%. It's the highest in the league, and he's throwing it a lot too. Reed's guy.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Evans, $6,900. Look at that. Symbiosis is what we call that. Washington giving the second most DK fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. No AB, no Gronk. Mike Evans.
Oh, God, he's going to be his number one
last
target.
6 games, 3 of them over 10 targets to Mike Evans. It's going to be a monster.
Wow.
All right.
I'm thinking of all the fantasy points that can be scored.
He says
I said Godwin outscores Evans.
Whoa.
I don't hate that.
Do you guys have some hot takes?
Touched me for a long time.
I'm sorry, you're so warm over there in that little cozy sweater.
Yes.
Jessie Coffield is shaking her head off camera. She has warned me not to do that. Any hot takes? Anything at all? Before we wrap up, we got 40 minutes.
I talked about Buffalo and Jacksonville last week. Watch out.
Oh, yes.
I just said that low total games, the teams who are getting points, you just got to watch out. Jacksonville again, plus 10 against the Colts. Over/unders 47.5. Not saying that it's going to happen again. But you just worry, the NFL is crazy. You just got to stay away right now because we don't know who's good, we don't know who's
My
not.
hot take is you're going to wrap the show on time.
Okay, we have 20 until the end of the show. An Unreasonable Odds podcast. The next greatest episode will hit when? Will drop when? Tuesday, Monday? No one really knows?
You got to wrap.
I got to
Mondays
wrap.
and
That is a
Thursdays,
fantastic show
Odds.
for everybody watching. Thank you. We appreciate that. And for all of you guys, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thanks, I appreciate it.